I agreed to date Ethan just to get him off my back, but I've fallen for him. My ex Todd's sudden return complicates things. No one knows how this bet-like date will go. Ethan. The irritation that's been building up for days feels like an unbreakable knot, tightly around my heart. I'm running frantically on the treadmill, my chest and legs burning with excruciating pain. I've already run 5 kilometers, yet this nearly 2-hour workout seems utterly pointless. On the contrary, it only makes the suffocating tightness and searing heat inside me even worse, doing absolutely nothing to ease the restlessness deep within my soul. Nothing works. No matter how many times I try to distract myself, I remain tense and agitated. I didn't sleep a wink all night, her body pressed against mine, the feel of her skin, her scent, all kept flashing through my mind, making it impossible for me to fall asleep. I hit the stop button on the treadmill, feeling as if I'm about to lose control again. Damn it. I haven't even touched her yet. I've got to put an end to this madness. Gasping for air, I leave the gym in the apartment building and step into the elevator, heading back to my place, and then I still have to go to work. To make matters worse, the traffic on my way to the office was absolutely horrendous. I almost considered getting out of the car and walking the last few blocks. By the time I arrived at the office, Bennett had just pulled in too. I quickened my pace, hoping to avoid riding the elevator with him. There was simply no way I felt like talking to anyone, especially my younger brother, who'd been meddling in my business lately. But it was no use. The elevator took forever to arrive, and just as the doors were closing, he stepped inside. Leaning against the metal panel opposite me, arms crossed, he gave me a scrutinizing look that made me feel utterly uneasy. He cleared his throat and then curled his lips into a faint smile. Morning, little bro. I seriously wanted to punch him right then and there. Don't mess with me, I said through clenched teeth. You need to relax. You look like you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Easy for him to say. He'd probably spent last night having a blast. Get lost, I snapped. And he burst into laughter. Just say what's on your mind. My little brother is just a nosy jerk. What's wrong? You're in such a bad mood. Don't you have anything better to do than keep staring at my mental state? Luckily, the elevator reached my floor. If you feel like chatting, you know where to find me, he said before I stepped out, and I barely managed not to give him the middle finger, considering the assistant was right there at the front desk. I mumbled a perfunctory good morning to her, and then slammed the office door behind me. As soon as I sat down and remembered what I had to do next, my irritation only grew stronger. Oh well. The job required those documents anyway. I stared at the business card, bearing her name, phone number, and email for nearly 30 minutes. I kept hesitating about whether to save her contact information. It might turn out to be a mistake. In the end, I shoved the card back into the drawer and decided to focus on something else first. Yeah, I really was wrong. I shouldn't have gotten close to her while we were working together. But when I realized she'd get tense just thinking about being alone with me, I figured I'd just see how she'd react. Little did I know that I'd be the one who ended up getting caught. Just being near her made me lose all control. Now Miss Brown must think I've got zero self-control, or maybe she thinks I'm somehow under her special influence. And she does have that effect on me, though there's no need for her to know about it. Nor is there any need for her to think I'm completely smitten by her. She's already arrogant enough as it is. Damn it. I really need to find someone to unwind with. Maybe that'll help ease this awful mood. But I'm not in London anymore, so naturally I can't get in touch with Emma and Jessica, my former bedmates. We each had exactly what we needed from the arrangement. We didn't interfere in each other's lives at all, and that worked perfectly for me. When Emma was busy, she'd reach out to Jessica and vice versa, and we always got along great, right up until I had to head back to New York. Maybe I could find someone like her here too, but definitely not Miss Brown. Just thinking about that makes me smile. She's simply not the type of person who'd be open to a relationship like this. What she really needs is someone who'll take the initiative and reach out to her. And there's no way I could ever be that kind of person. Even so, I still can't help wanting her, just once, at least. I've almost become obsessed with the need to experience her presence. There's something indefinable about her, a quality that draws me in like a magnet, making me want to possess her in any way possible. Maybe it's those eyes that seem to beckon me, urging me to make her yield. Or maybe it's her exquisite figure, which makes me want to run my hands over every single curve. The first time I saw her, I couldn't help but notice how utterly unique she was. There was an innate air of pride about her, a slightly upturned nose, and a spark of unyielding determination in the depths of her eyes. She seemed ready to confront anyone at any moment. I want to tear her apart, make her bow before me, begging for mercy. Damn it. I should be working, yet here I am, fantasizing about her again. As evening approached, I stared at my computer screen and finally decided to send an email. I wrote it in the most formal tone possible. After a brief greeting, I went straight into detailing exactly what information I needed. I read it over and over, making sure there wasn't a single mistake. I hesitated for a moment, wondering whether I should apologize for the storage room incident, but quickly dismissed the thought. What could I possibly say? Sorry I acted like a jerk and couldn't keep myself under control around you? That's just plain inappropriate for a work email. I'll apologize when we meet face-to-face instead. I saved her contact info on my phone, slipped her business card back into the drawer, and tried hard to convince myself that this was purely professional. I'm glad Bennett didn't bother me today. I didn't stay even a minute longer after work than usual. That's really unusual. Usually, I'd stick around for an hour or two after everyone else had left. I drove to the bar near the office that I'd spotted a few days earlier. I didn't want to spend another sleepless night tossing and turning in bed. I needed to relax if I was going to focus on work. Close relationships always seem to help with this kind of thing. I sat at the bar and ordered a glass of whiskey, my eyes drifting over to the blonde woman sitting across from me, chatting with her friend. I asked the bartender to add her next drink to my tab. After taking a quick shower at home, I got into my car and headed to work. The apartment next door was being moved, which delayed my departure. Why does my life feel like such a mess? Come on, Ellie, don't exaggerate. It's just that my damn ex-boyfriend is back, stirring up all sorts of memories, both good and bad. Looking at Todd, it's easy to see why I ever fell for him in the first place. He's so charming. Just looking at him makes your heart flutter. Even doing something as mundane as changing a light bulb, he somehow manages to exude sheer sex appeal. That memory is still vividly etched in my mind. We once had such wonderful times together. He was smart and considerate, with the charm uniquely characteristic of Italian men. Our relationship was always great, even though we never officially formalized it. For 7 months, he never once suggested that I become his girlfriend. But we acted just like a couple, and we even made a mutual promise to remain exclusively devoted to each other. He knew that this was the only way he could have me, so he agreed. I just can't understand. How can someone who likes another person be willing to share them with others? Maybe that's precisely why I've never been able to accept casual relationships. If you don't really like someone, meeting more than once is nothing but a waste of time. The problem with Todd was that he'd been pretending to like me from beginning to end. It's only now, after everything, that I've finally seen through it all. I keep finding myself wondering, was everything he did just to satisfy his own desires? The sweet nothings he whispered late at night, those words he said about how no one else could ever replace me, all just empty lies. I still remember that for his birthday, I saved up my entire month's salary and bought him the limited edition watch he'd been dreaming of. Yet he couldn't even remember something as small as how much I hated cilantro. Once, when I had a bad cold and fever and couldn't even get out of bed, I called him for help, but he made up some excuse about being busy with work and told me to just order takeout and take my medicine myself. Only later did I find out that he'd actually been out drinking with his friends all along. The day he left, he didn't even say a single word of goodbye. All he left behind was a cold, impersonal message. Work comes first. Let's call it quits here. He treated 7 months of my heartfelt devotion like garbage and tossed it aside without a second thought. Just thinking about it makes me so furious that my whole body starts shaking. That big jerk. He'd just walk away without a second thought, all because of work, as if I meant absolutely nothing to him, as if I hadn't spent 7 whole months pouring my heart into him, as if I hadn't put him first. What a hypocritical bastard. I slammed my fist onto the steering wheel, rage boiling inside me, and felt a sharp pain shoot through my fingers. Damn it. How dare that jerk come back now and even say he'd send me a message? What a total asshole. I should have just told him to get lost the minute he showed up. I made my way to the lab, sat down, and turned on my computer, the very first thing I did every morning after finishing my coffee, checking my email. There was a message from Mr. Ethan Morgan, a partner at Morgan Harris. Even his title oozed arrogance. Come on, Allie, I said with a laugh as I started reading the email. It was a perfectly standard, utterly routine work-related message, detailing exactly what information they needed. For some reason, though, I'd somehow been expecting something different. At least he wouldn't be coming around here again. I tried hard to convince myself that I didn't care at all. By the time Anna and I arrived at the bar, Zara and Zoe were already waiting for us. This is exactly what I need, getting together with the girls on a Friday night, drinking our hearts out and bitching about that damn ex-boyfriend. A girls' night? I asked as I sat down. The guys should be here any minute now, Zoe said. I nodded. Don't you want to ask about someone? She probed gently. Nope. I don't care. I shrugged. Really? She snorted softly, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. She's having a really rough day, just drop it, Anna chimed in. I'd already told her about running into that jerk Todd. What's up? Come on, tell me everything I've missed while I was away on business, Zara said. She and her husband had just returned from a trip to Washington. That jerk Todd's back in New York, Anna said, and both of them instantly wore expressions of surprise. Ellie ran into him this morning, and that jerk actually had the nerve to say he was going to text her. Zoe snapped. That son of a bitch, Zara exclaimed. Why did he even come back? Zara wondered. Who cares? Zoe retorted. He never should have come back in the first place. There was a sudden commotion at the bar's entrance. 4 tall men walked in, laughing and chatting among themselves, all dressed in work clothes. Only Bennett was still wearing a full suit. He was the very embodiment of elegance. The other 3 looked far more laid back. Will's tie was loose, his sleeves rolled up to his elbows, and he was irresistibly sexy. Jack wasn't wearing a tie, his jacket left open. Yet, he was so naturally charming that he didn't need any extra flair. Ethan wore a white shirt with a black tie, his jacket draped over his shoulder, and his hair was tousled, as if he'd just emerged from an intense encounter. Wait a minute. Ethan was here too. Damn it. The memory of what happened in the pantry flashed through my mind in an instant, and I felt my cheeks burning hot. My body reacted too, completely forgetting that after all that, I'd still have to face him. As they greeted their respective partners, I kept staring at my hands, only glancing up briefly when Will kissed me on the cheek as a perfunctory gesture. I didn't dare look at Ethan's face, yet I could feel his gaze fixed on me. I cleared my throat and stood up. I'll be right back. I'm going to the bar to grab something, I said before bolting away from the table. Why was I running? It wasn't like I was the one who'd lost control. Well, actually, I had lost control, but he didn't know that. Having a rough time? A few seconds after I sat down at the bar, he came over and leaned against the counter. I glanced briefly at his profile, and he immediately met my gaze. He looked just as exhausted as I did, yet somehow still utterly sexy. Great. Now I've got to deal with you, too. There was always something about him that kept me on my guard, ready to strike back at a moment's notice. Just let your guard down, he said. I'm not here to cause any trouble. Of course, I sneered as the bartender approached. Hard to believe, huh? What would this lady like to drink? The man asked me with a smile. He had dark hair and a neatly trimmed beard. Can I recommend something for you? 2 glasses of whiskey, Ethan interjected coldly, and I turned to him in surprise. He was staring at the man with an icy glare. All right. The bartender's smile vanished in an instant, and he turned to walk away. What are you doing? I asked, utterly confused. What am I doing? He glanced back at me. Why'd you even bother answering for me, and so rudely? You don't even know if I want whiskey or not. I'm sure you could use a strong drink. That's ridiculous. I laughed sarcastically, almost unable to believe my ears. You guys are just like wild beasts fighting over territory when you've got absolutely nothing to do with each other. What are you talking about? The way you were acting just now, it was as if we were a couple. I wasn't doing anything of the sort. Maybe it's your subconscious, I said mockingly. He just shrugged. Of course. He'd never in a million years admit that he'd acted like a cocky jerk. What's it to you? Are you interested in the bartender or something? Even if I were, it's none of your business. I'm just trying to be a good friend and help you get rid of him. Why would you even bother? Zoe said you've been having a rough day, and I figured you didn't need some random guy hitting on you. Is he serious? I lower my head, stifling a laugh. You're just impossible. First of all, we're not friends. And second, haven't you ever considered that maybe this is exactly what I need? He took a deep breath. Do you really think you're qualified to say something like that? All right, let's start over. Actually, he cleared his throat. I'm here to apologize for what happened in the lab. I made an effort not to recall how his body had felt pressed against mine. He glanced down at our hands, clasped together on the counter, looking slightly uncomfortable. I couldn't let this opportunity slip by. Specifically, which incident are you apologizing for? Do you have to be so literal? He raised an eyebrow. I put on my most puzzled expression, pretending I had no idea what he was talking about. Fine, he shook his head. I'm sorry for losing control when you got close to me, he said, staring straight into my eyes. I hurriedly looked away. Damn it. He really knows how to hit a nerve. Wow. I thought you wanted to be my friend. Still, thanks for the compliment. Even though all you're doing is objectifying my body. You should learn to compliment a woman's intelligence instead. That'll make a much better impression. So, what do you think I should compliment you on? How incredibly kind, likable, and hospitable you are, he asked, raising his thick eyebrows. Ouch. That hurt, I said, clutching my chest. Sorry, I guess only someone truly special can see this side of me. You should feel utterly honored, I forced out with a sarcastic smile. His gaze lingered on the tiny bruise on the knuckle of my finger, the result of slamming the steering wheel earlier that morning. Don't worry, the other person's injuries are way worse, he said. I hope so. Looks like you've really had a terrible day today. Yeah, same old story. Work's not going well. That jerk ex-boyfriend is back in town, things like that. Why on earth am I telling him all this? You punched your ex-boyfriend? He asked skeptically. No way. I'm not even his ex-girlfriend. I thought you were the one who hated casual relationships the most. Why are we even talking about this? More importantly, why are we talking at all? If you're just trying to pretend to be my friend in order to get closer to me, save yourself the trouble. I've had enough. Haven't you ever considered that maybe I just want to get to know you a little better? I knew exactly what he was up to and why he was doing it. I don't want you to get to know me. What exactly do you hate about me? Isn't it obvious? You know perfectly well. You turned me down, and I got the message the first time. Then why are you still here? Do I really have to be interested in having sex with you just to talk to you? Don't underestimate my intelligence. I've met way too many guys like you. At least be honest for once in your life. Admit that if you didn't want to get close to me, you'd never have bothered talking to me in the first place. People always strike up conversations, Miss Brown. Sometimes there's simply no ulterior motive, he said, his expression serious enough to almost convince me. If I hadn't known how convincingly men could lie, even to themselves, I might actually have believed him. Then look me in the eyes and tell me you don't want to be with me. I forced myself to meet his gaze, but as soon as our eyes locked, I immediately regretted it. I can't do that. Because it'd be a lie, he said earnestly. Exactly. But that doesn't mean I'm only talking to you for that reason. But I think that's exactly how it is. My goodness. I don't know what you've been through, but not all men are jerks. You're still talking about this? We've only been chatting for 2 minutes, and already you're trying to get close to me. A faint, forced smile tugged at the corner of his lips, then his gaze grew deep and subtly suggestive. You can pretend you don't want it. You really have a high opinion of yourself. This must be a Morgan family trait. My little brother would be disappointed to hear you say that. He's been urging me to stay away from you all along. The bartender stepped over, set down 2 glasses of drink, didn't glance at me once, didn't crack a smile, and didn't utter a single word before walking away again. Does he really think I'd fall for him? You're making it sound like it's completely impossible. It is, I sighed. If Bennett thinks I'd ever fall for his younger brother, he must be out of his mind. Maybe I find him attractive, but attracted? Absolutely not. I'm really looking forward to seeing you take that back. You said you're looking forward to it? I frowned. Was he trying to turn this into a big deal? You can deny it all you want, but I know exactly how much of an impact I've had on you, he said confidently, his gaze sweeping over my entire body and making me feel utterly uncomfortable. I grabbed my glass and took a sip of whiskey. The fiery liquor burned my throat. What kind of impact are you talking about? Irritation? Disgust? Hatred? Fear? Longing? Restlessness? Damn it. How could he possibly know that's exactly how I've been feeling around him? Don't worry, Miss Brown. When you finally admit just how badly you're craving me, I'll be right here waiting for you. You're totally out of your mind. I tried to change the subject, but he was making me feel more and more uneasy by the minute. Let's make a bet, he said. A bet? Go on a date with me. Date with him? Why on earth would I go on a date with him? Give you an opportunity to harass me? I teased. No thanks. I'd never do anything you're not comfortable with, he insisted. Nonsense. I scoffed. You hate me, and I hate you. Why on earth would we go on a date? We're making this bet precisely to see who's right. I don't need to prove anything. I already know I'm right. Liar. There was something dangerously alluring about Ethan Morgan, and I knew full well I'd be better off staying as far away from him as possible. If you've got nothing to lose, why don't you just say yes? What could I possibly gain? You're just looking to run an experiment, but I already know exactly what the outcome will be. Or maybe you're just scared? Ugh. I rolled my eyes. Even if I said yes, what's in it for me? After all, if I'm going on a date with you, I should at least get something out of it, right? My reward? Getting rid of me. You'd stop bugging me? Absolutely. Then, what's your reward? Proving you're wrong. That's my reward. Are you trying to seduce me? I don't need to. You're not going to touch me without my permission, are you? I had to be absolutely sure. I could promise to behave myself, but what if he decided to take matters into his own hands? Of course not. So all I have to do is go on one date with you, and I'll finally be free of you? My gut told me this was a huge mistake. But if it meant getting him to give up and stop harassing me, I wasn't about to pass up this chance. That's right. You promise? I promise. Then I agree, I declared. He laughed as if he'd just won the jackpot, setting off all my red flags. But I didn't notice. Deep in his eyes, a sinister glint flickered, as if he'd already laid an invisible trap.